We're the parents of 5 children. We have 3 here on earth and 2 which are in heaven. And our journey started about 10 years ago when we first became married, and we waited about 3.5 years before we had our first daughter. And God blessed us with a beautiful, healthy baby girl. And she was just a perfect child, I guess, at least, the first perfect child. And she did everything, it seemed to be, slept good, didn't cry that much. And we quickly decided that we wanted to have our second. And on her first birthday, I was actually pregnant with our second child. And when she came along, it was kind of a totally different story. And when we had her, everything was still perfect and great, and she was beautiful and healthy. But then things kind of changed when we brought her home from the hospital.
We walked in the door, and Aniston was crying, our oldest, and Madison was crying, and we just looked at each other and asked what we got ourselves into.
But having babies just, very close together, just seemed to be a challenge. But David took Aniston for a nap, which is what she needed, and I fed Madison. And by the time that we all came back home, everything from then on out was pretty perfect. And about 9 months later, surprisingly, we became pregnant with our third child. And we, after telling all of our family and kind of getting used to the idea that we were expecting again, I began what I thought was a miscarriage. And we went to the hospital, and I had the blood work done, and we had to wait for about 3 days before we actually found out that we had lost our third child. And God felt the need to bless us with Adriana, who is our last, our fourth child. And she was perfect. She was healthy. I just, we had 3 girls at home, and everything was just the way it should have been. And then we became pregnant with our 5th child. And
from the very beginning, this pregnancy was different.
Yeah. And we went for our checkups. Everything was fine. Heart rate was a little lower than the other girls had been, but nothing to be concerned with. Everything looked perfect. Everything, was perfectly healthy, and I was doing great. But we went for our 21-week ultrasound to find out what we were having. And we took the girls with us. It was kind of a little tradition to have, the other siblings there whenever we found out what the baby was. And the girls had taken a poll and, had everyone in the family tell if we were having a boy or a girl. And it was taking the ultrasound tech a lot longer to determine what this baby was. And, I've had ultrasound after ultrasound, and I knew this was you go in, you get your ultrasound done, you find out the gender, they check a few things, and you're out within 30 minutes. And after about an hour, I knew that there was something a little off with this ultrasound. This was taking a lot longer, and I just remember the technician going back to the baby's heart, and she kept trying to find things maybe or something. I don't really know. I had this, feeling at that point, this is taking a little too long. She finally told us that we were having another girl, and we were thrilled. David is a great daddy, so daddy's girls are perfectly fine here. And our doctor came in, and he didn't say a lot, and he wasn't my typical OB. And he came in and he said, I don't like the way your baby's heart looks. But I know we were scared to death because it was our baby and there was something possibly wrong with her. And I think we expected to maybe go up and find out that everything was okay. This is something we could fix with medicine or surgery, or it really wouldn't be a big deal. And I remember we went into this room, and there were several other couples there. And the thought that crossed my mind is, we're not the only one here with a problem. Everyone in this room has something wrong with, their baby. And we went into this little room, and we began an ultrasound. And I remember the technician, she was so sweet, and she was just sensitive to the fact that we were there and that we had a problem. And the doctor came in, and I remember him asking, he said, "Why are you here?" And we said, "Well, our heart doesn't look right, is what we've been told." And he said, "Yes, you're exactly right. it doesn't. And he said, to be honest with you, I have no idea what exactly is going on with her heart. I don't think he'd ever saw anything like it. He didn't have a name for it. He didn't have a reason. He didn't even know how bad it was at that point. And he said, and that's not all. And I think our hearts just stopped. I was not expecting that whatsoever, because all we had been told was her heart. And we were told that she only had one kidney, some fluid around her brain, possibly just didn't look exactly right, nothing major there, that she had a double cleft palate. He said all of these things are signs of trisomy 13 or 18. And he said it could be Down syndrome, but I really don't think that's what it is. He said, I think it's, more severe than that. And, everybody wants a perfect, healthy child, but I think at that point we were just praying for Down syndrome. I mean, it meant life to us. Whatever, handicaps our child was going to face, we were ready to deal with that. We would love it. We, would just embrace it and go on. This baby would be part of our family.
But the doctor, we left that day, and we'd made an appointment to come back later on, but the doctor told us that day that it was probably trisomy 13 or trisomy 18, and that our baby wasn't going to live.
I remember, being absolutely devastated that we had found that out, but God gave me this unbelievable strength that day. I don't know where it came from. I mean, other than God. I mean, I didn't have it within myself. I mean, any mother who has just been told her child that she was carrying was probably not going to, have life. I was just devastated. And I know David was. And I remember, we kind of asked what come along with trisomy 13 or 18. And, he said you may have a little bit of time, but it's usually fatal. And I remember walking out and having to tell my dad, who was standing there, that his grandchild was not going to live, and us making phone calls all the way home. And I don't know how many times I had to tell that our baby was probably not going to live. But like I said, there was something inside of me that held me together when I don't know how else I could have stood other than God carrying me. He was with us that day. And I'm not necessarily a strong person, but in that day, there was strength from, I don't know, only God could give.
They gave us no hope. Actually, after the first appointment, they pretty much gave us no hope that our baby was going to live. And as she was saying, you walk in with the fear that it's going to be one thing, and then you walk out wishing it was what you dreaded, because it's actually worse. And,
after doing all of our research, trisomy 13, there was a 1 in 16,000 chance that your baby could have this. And I just remember thinking, wow, God chose us out of 16,000 people to give us this special child. How could you carry a baby who you knew was going to die? And why didn't we terminate? But, she was still alive. She was very much alive. I mean, she was a little soul. She had a beating heart that was perfect. And I couldn't imagine doing anything different than what we did that day. And I remember going and telling our girls that their little sister was probably not going to live. And that was a very difficult part of the day for me. They were great. They were, 4 and 6. I mean, I don't know how much they could really comprehend, but they were saddened. But I remember we decided we really needed to pick a name. The oldest, I think, said McKenna, and the middle one, Madison, she said Faith. And I thought, wow, what a perfect name, And it was, from then on, she was our McKenna Faith. Every night for a few weeks, as they cried and they wanted their sister, they wanted her to be healthy, they wanted to bring her home. Why can't we have her? Why can't, you know, we all sing together. Why can't we play with her? Why can't she grow up? And I thought, you know, this is their sister too, and this is their loss just like it's our loss. I just kept saying, you know, God's got a plan, and even though she's sick now, God's going to heal her when she gets in heaven. She'll be perfect and she'll have a new body. And after, you know, the emotions, I think they realized, I mean, being as young as they were, that God had a bigger plan. And sometimes, you know, I could look at them and they could say things that would lift me up.
At the time, they told us that we probably wouldn't even make it full term.
Yeah. I know every day, I don't think there was a single day that went by that the morning my eyes opened, I thought, is today going to be the day? And I thought, you know, is today the day that our baby's going to come into this world? And, you know, and she's also going to leave us. And I thought, you know, I dreaded so many things. You know, I dreaded maybe knowing that her little heart had stopped while she was inside of me, and that I wouldn't feel her move, or that would be the last kick that I felt, or, you know, I dreaded it. When David would tell her that he loved her, she would always kick him. And it's just like, she was full of life then. You know, she had a connection with us, and you know, I was blessed to carry her inside of me. And I felt her, and, you know, and the closest thing he could feel was, you know, just feeling my belly and feeling her kick and move. But, you know, he still had that interaction with her, and there was this connection there between, still, the daddy and daughter connection that he had with the other girls. You know, the other girls would sing to her and read her stories and just different things, and talk to her constantly. I mean, I was always walking around with somebody with hands on my belly or talking to her. Or she was a granddaughter, she was a niece, you know, she was a sister. And I think it was weird to see all of these people who were just devastated. I mean, you could just see the devastation on them. I don't think I ever imagined that this wouldn't just affect us. This would affect everyone else. And, you know, for the 4 months that we knew that McKenna was sick, and my sister told me, she said, you know, we were grieving because we didn't have her all the time. And David and I and the girls, we had her 24/7. We saw life, we saw movement, we experienced all of that. So we had life, and we embraced it. I mean, we cherished every moment. We, you know, we went to every doctor's appointment. We heard the heartbeat. We were just tickled, you know. I mean, for whatever reason, you know, even though our lives were falling apart kind of right before our eyes, we still, you know, we had life, and we were just going to cherish it and enjoy it, and that's all we knew to do. The entire time I had prayed, you know, God, please don't make us choose the day our daughter is going to have to die. Please, you know, just don't put that on us. And we were getting closer to the end, and our doctor, you know, she said, you know, we are going to have to induce you. So the date was set, and that was going to be on Thursday. And she said, but I want to see you one more time on Tuesday to make sure things are going the way they should. Everything still looks favorable for, you know, the induction. And that weekend before, I was preparing things around the house, packing clothes, just different little things. And we went out to eat on Friday night, and I was having contractions. You know, they were painful, but nothing, you know, too severe. All day Saturday while I was trying to get things ready, I was having contractions. And Sunday morning, we went to church, and our church is a good hour away. And that would have put us about 2.5 hours away from our hospital. And we were just having a normal day. I would have my contractions. Not a really big deal. I just thought we're getting ready for labor, you know. And I took the kids to a birthday party, and I remember joking with my dad, and he's like, "Are you feeling okay?" And I said, "Yeah, you know." I said, "I'm just avoiding labor," and I was just joking, and because I'd never been into labor, I had no clue what to expect. My family kind of really encouraged me, you know, to go on to the hospital and just kind of get things checked out. And I had never hurt like that before. I mean, I was thinking I could just tough it out and go on. But we got things ready. Nothing was going like I planned. Everybody was going with us. Everybody said, you know, we're going to be there. This may be it. And we even took our kids, you know, with us because everybody was going. So, and I got there, and my doctor met me at the hospital. We got a hold of her on the way over, and you know, she checked me out. They put me in a little room. She said, yeah, you're dilated to 5. We're going to have a baby tonight. And then I dreaded so badly the silence that was going to come, because we didn't expect any life whatsoever. And the silence that was going to fill that room instead of a cry when she was born. And those were the things I dreaded the most. And I don't know why I didn't dread labor. I didn't dread anything else. Everything else seemed like it would be a breeze. But I dreaded just those moments. And I remember that night there was 34 people there when McKenna was going to be born.
And you could see, looking at the pictures now, you can see the dread prior to McKenna's birth. You can see the dread and the pain on people's face, because we knew what to expect. At least we thought we did. Delivery started, and McKenna is born, and there's a cry. There's a cry.
It's the most precious sound I think I've ever heard. You know, it was just something about that, it filled my heart with joy more than I ever could have even imagined.
Yeah, and the doctor, when she was born, the doctor handed her to me, and I held her, and then I took her over to my wife, and we held her together, and we began to weep and to cry, and there was happiness, but we knew at the same time, as McKenna was, we didn't want her to be in any pain. We didn't want that. We didn't want her to suffer. I never thought I'd get the chance to hold her while she was alive. I never thought I'd get the chance to hear her cry or anything like that. And then the pediatrician comes over and says, I want to check her. And then she checks her heart, and she gives us news we never expected. And the pediatrician says that we have some time. She said that she wasn't God, but that we have some time. And she didn't know how much time we had, but we might have a little while. And the joy that brought. And for somebody to tell you that you have a few hours with your daughter, to a lot of people may be tragic. To us, it was joy. We have the girls brought in, our 3 little girls, and we all spent some time together.
I remember we had prepared the girls. Her face wasn't going to look like a baby doll. You know, she was going to have the cleft palate, and she wasn't going to look extremely, like a perfect baby doll that they would probably envision. And we had told them, that she would look a little different and that it was okay. They were children. We didn't expect them to just think she was absolutely gorgeous or perfect. And, I remember the first thing that they said was, she looks just like us. She's fine. What's wrong? I thought you said her lips might look a little funny. And that just melted my heart. I mean, as a mother, you want the best for all of your children, and their little hearts and souls, it was just so big at that time. They were 2, 4, and 6, and they saw nothing wrong. I thought, there was this love there for their sister, and it was perfect. And that just, I don't think there could be any more joy and happiness that filled the room that night.
Me and the girls, of course, we left McKenna and Alicia, and we went out to get the rest of the family, the grandparents. And as we left the room, and as they were in the waiting room, is where everybody was at, Madison rounded the corner, and with a hop, she said, "She's alive, she's alive." And you could just see and just feel a sense of just a whole lot less tension in the room, with everybody else knowing that our baby girl was alive. And there was just something special about that moment. There's something special about that instant, and just her in that yellow dress. I can picture it now. She rounded that corner, she just jumped, said, "She's alive."
Sometime about an hour after she was born, I think David said, this calls for celebration. And he said, somebody go get cake. And we had our little girl a birthday party. I mean, it was a life worth celebrating.
And for 3 hours and 17 minutes, we had McKenna found.
For it to be the way we wanted, it was just David and I, and she fell asleep in our arms. And I believe from the moment she, had her last breath, that she entered in the arms of Jesus. And that gives us great comfort and peace. And, I know where she's at. And I wouldn't trade those 3 hours and 17 minutes for a lifetime with her, not knowing where she would spend eternity. You know, we had our moment and we were devastated, but yet those 3 hours and 17 minutes have went beyond our expectation and carried us through so many nights that we've had heartache and sorrow because we got more than we ever expected that night. I remember throughout her service, we stood by her little casket and we had the opportunity to share a miracle that God had performed in our lives. You know, we were given 3 hours and 17 minutes with a baby girl who we expected to be 4, maybe 5 pounds, who was a 7-pound baby, and you know, just beautiful and full of life, actually. And we got to stand there and we got to tell how good God was. And you know, we found strength in the Lord that day that is nothing like I ever imagined. When we had her funeral, the actual part, David was able to speak, you know, and we weren't sure if that was going to happen. And he felt led, and God gave him the grace to get up there and, you know, say words for his daughter. And it was very touching. And the service, the entire service, was not a funeral service per se that was full of sadness, but we had church. I mean, the pastors that, you know, held her service and preached, there was, I think there was even maybe conviction among some of those that were there. And if that's what, you know, this took, was the death of our daughter to bring someone to God, it was all worth it. To God be the glory. And because we know where she's at, we want him to be glorified in this, and we want there to be souls saved, and we want someone to learn about God just by her story. It has nothing to do with us or anything that we've done. It's all through him. There's going to be days where, you know, all you want to do is talk about it, and then there's days when, you know, you don't even want to even relive those memories. But, you know, with God's grace and his guidance, we can, you know, we can live. We have something to look forward to, you know, strive to have the life with our children again someday. You know, I've cried and I've had my moments, and I went to the graveyard, you know, every day to visit. I guess it's just the closeness of a body. I know she's not really there. It's just somewhere I can go. But I've thought more than once, you know, if you're a mother or father going through this, I don't know how you're doing it without God. Because if I didn't have God, if I didn't have that peace in my heart, you know, or the assurance that she was okay, I couldn't get up in the morning. I couldn't go on. I couldn't live. I couldn't sit here and talk to you the way that we have today and know, you know, without a shadow of a doubt that she's in heaven. And I don't know how, you know, you can do it. And, you know, if you're struggling because you've lost a child or, you know, something tragic has happened, I don't know how you can do it without the faith and, you know, of our God. I feel for you, but I also, you know, want to say that, you know, you're never going to have healing. You're never going to have that void filled in your heart, because there's just a part of you that dies with these children. And you know, I think back of, you know, how Christ died on the cross, you know, for our sins. You know, he had a father that looked upon him and suffered loss. God knows what we're going through. And, you know, with him, he can help us. So I highly encourage, if you've never found Christ, that you find him and that, you know, you ask him to help you through this, because he can. And we thank you for hearing our story. And we just hope that you have got a blessing from our daughter. And even though she was only 3 hours and 17 minutes old, you know, she has a big story to tell. And we just thank you for taking time to listen, and ask that, you know, you look to God for your strength, because he's the only one that can get you through.
And you can have a story too if you allow God to work in your life.